Is your business plan basically, hmm, how do I say this nicely? Stupid, pathetic, useless? Because that's what I want to talk to you about today. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 business plan mistakes that even experts make. Today is actually day 28 of my 30-day YouTube challenge. And as I promised yesterday, for the last part of this challenge, I'm just going to be doing topics that YouTube thinks I should do. And YouTube popped up 2 more pages for me with an outline of 5 business plan mistakes that even experts make. Conveniently, they only gave me 4 mistakes on this paperwork. So I guess they figured that I must know what the 5th one is. But luckily, I do. And luckily, as usual, I know all of these topics because this is right up my wheelhouse. My name is Erica D. Barton, and I am a market and financial feasibility researcher for more than 20 years. Basically, a market and financial feasibility report is just a business plan that big businesses use to raise millions of dollars. Now, most small businesses, they don't actually use business plans for that. What they use it for is they use it to find the loopholes and the mistakes in your business. That's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to help you redesign your business plan so that way you can see where the problems are and you'll start getting ideas about how to fix it. Mistake number 1, lack of a clear target market. In this outline, YouTube has dictated that the 3 bullet points that I should talk about are the importance of defining your ideal customer and their needs, using customer personas to create a detailed understanding of your target audience, and how a lack of market research can lead to a misaligned business plan. Out of all the business owners that I've ever met, whenever they've made a business plan, what they've basically done is they have downloaded a template from the internet, from Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint or some other form. And it's basically like a questionnaire that they go through and they just fill out. When they get to the customer part, because there's always a customer part in these business plans, they often get this wrong. Because the way that the business plan often asks the question is, what is your ideal customer? That's the wrong question. That's not the question you should be asking if you're a business with a physical location. Instead, you should be asking, who are the customers in your neighborhood? For most businesses with a physical location, your market is actually 10 miles out from whatever the address is of your business. This is very key because most people don't want to drive more than 10 to 20 minutes to get to a business. Now, if your business happens to be in the middle of the country and the next town is 100 miles away, then obviously your market will expand out to about 50 miles. But if you think about it, in the country, the farther out you get from town, the farther people live away from each other. And so those people on the outer fringes, there's going to be a lot less of them than what's in the concentrated 10-mile area. So if you really want to get the best look of who your customer is going to be, you need to figure out who's in your 10-mile market. Best way to do that is you can either buy the information, which I would recommend Environics Analytics to get that because you can buy a ton of different reports about who is in your market area, and you literally just give them your address and they will give you either miles or driving distance. For me, whenever I do a market financial feasibility report, I look at the 10-mile, the 25-mile, and the 50-mile market, but that's usually because I'm doing research for a big business, and big businesses usually are making big attractions, not small businesses. So for you, it would be safer to look at the 1-mile, 3-mile, 5-mile, and even 10-mile markets. But 10-mile being the farthest out you want to go if you want to get a real glimpse of who your customer is. So take a look at the census, find out what their race is, what their ages are, what their education is, if they're white collar, if they're blue collar. That's the first basic thing that you need to know about your customers. Next, you want to look at the psychographics. The psychographics are what YouTube is defining as the customer personas. You don't have to make these up. This information is already out there. You can actually buy the report for your area from Environics Analytics, who I'm not affiliated with, by the way, and they're not sponsoring me either, just so you know. But you can buy the report from them, and again, that you can give them the address, and they can tell you how many of the different classifications are within your area. The third thing that I would look at is your inventory. Your inventory is going to dictate who your customer is. So once you know who's in the area, and once you know what their customer persona is, what you need to do is look at your inventory and see how much of your inventory actually applies to who is in your market. You're not looking at who's actually buying your product. You're looking at who the end user is for your product. For example, I'm a mom. I buy for my husband. I buy for my kids. If I had a pet, I'd buy for my pet. At this time of year, Christmas time, then I would buy gifts for other family members. But most of the time, I'm not buying gifts for my sister. I'm not buying gifts for my mom. I'm not buying gifts for my friends. I'm mostly buying for my family. And the stuff that I would buy I'm not necessarily using. The end user might be my kids, it might be my husband, it might be the fish that I don't have. The product dictates who the customer is because it's all about who the end user is going to be. So after you've looked at the demographics, after you've looked at the psychographics, then you want to look at your inventory and figure out each and every single product, who the end user is going to be, and are those end users in your market? If they're not, cut them. You will definitely start making more money by doing so. Mistake number 2, overly optimistic financial projections. The next bullet points that YouTube talks about is the danger of relying on unrealistic assumptions and failing to conduct thorough market research to create accurate financial projections of different scenarios. Basically, when we do projections for our clients, we are actually doing 3 projections, and we're doing it for a series of 5 years. The reason we're doing that is because there is what we call an attendance curve. Most small businesses aren't necessarily aware of what this attendance curve is, but after having done this for over 20 years, it's something that I've dealt with a lot. Now remember, I'm doing research projects for big businesses, and they're doing big projects like theme parks, arenas, malls, movie theaters, regular theaters, bowling alleys. I mean, all kinds of businesses that I've looked at, but there's a basic attendance curve that happens no matter what kind of business you have, especially if it's an attraction. Basically, what that attendance curve is that for the first 2 years of any business, your business should be going on the up. Your sales in the first year are usually going to be pretty good, and they should continue to increase in the second year. But the part that most small businesses don't know about, and the part that I would say probably drives them out of business early, is that in year 3, the attendance numbers are going to dip drastically. The reason for that is because people love things that are new. Whenever a new business opens up, there are a lot of looky-loos who will run out and immediately try to look at that before somebody else does. They want to be the first into a business, and they want to know if it's a worthwhile thing. So that's why you get high attendance numbers in the first year. And if they like it, they come back over and over and over again for an average of 2 years. After 2 years, they've gone to that business several times. They might be bored with that business, and now it kind of settles into the back of their mind, which is why you have the dip. So generally, the 3rd year is going to be your worst year in business. And then after the 3rd year, attendance will start to go back up again, and you will get into your real growth curve. Basically, what's happening at that point is other people who didn't know about your business as a new business will start finding you, and they will start checking out your business. And you're going to be locking in the loyalty of your customers. Hopefully, you're going to be getting return visitors, and your attendance numbers will start to go back up. Usually around year 5, attendance is going to level out, and it should hopefully be around the same as where year 2 was, but it might be lower, and it can still continue to grow. This is something that's really important to understand as a business, because if you are aware of that 3rd year drop, which is very common in the business world, you can plan and you can prepare for it. And one of the ways to fight it is to introduce new elements in that 3rd year that are going to bring your business back up. So that is the 5-year part. Now let's talk about the 3 different projections that we do for a client. The first one I call the worst case scenario. The second one we call the conservative numbers. And the third one is our goal numbers or our dream numbers. In order to create these 3 types of projections, what we do is we start with the conservative numbers. We start with the numbers that we think we can get, which is basically like, okay, we have this business and we think we're going to make this much money. We think we're going to have to order this much inventory. We think we're going to have to sell this much product. And based on what the demographics are in the area, the psychographics, what the products are, what your analysis is of your customers, we're going to say that on the conservative side, we're going to make these numbers. From there, you would basically do a budget or a profit and loss. If you've been in business for a while, you have your profit and loss, you can just print it up. Those would be your conservative numbers. But if this is a new business that you're about to start, you're going to create your budget ahead of time, and you're going to predict that these are the numbers that we're going to try to do. Those are your conservative numbers. You don't want to go to wishful thinking in this part. Once you have those numbers, you want to cut those numbers by 20 to 50%. And the reason I say that is because that is your second set of projections, which is the worst case scenario. If nothing goes to plan and nobody shows up, then you should know what those numbers would look like. Because if you know what those numbers look like, you can plan accordingly. And you can start putting elements in place to bring your numbers up. Mistake number 3, neglecting the competition. This next bullet point that YouTube pulled up is actually something that makes me a uniquely qualified expert, because this is where I get my databases from competition. Basically, every time I do a research report, I will collect tables and tables of information of all of the businesses in the area that might be a competition to that business. Since most of the time I'm doing entertainment studies, then I'm looking at all aspects of entertainment like bowling, movies, malls, golf courses, family entertainment centers, anything that might be a tourist attraction or anything that families would do for fun or people would do for fun in that particular area. If I was doing a research report for a restaurant, then I would pull all restaurants in that area and I would put those into a table. If I was doing a retail study, then I would look at the larger malls, which are going to pull away from smaller businesses outside of a mall. But I'd be looking at malls, I would be looking at stores, and I'd be looking at all of it. I would get a table of all of the businesses. And then I would make sure to separate them out by category, and then I would summarize it. Let's say you're an Italian restaurant in an area, and most specifically, you're a pizza place. Generally, then you would think, okay, my competition are all the pizza places in town. No, your competition are all the restaurants in town. But I would definitely have one table of just pizza places. In addition, I would also look at the Italian restaurants and have a table of Italian restaurants. Then I would have a table of all of the restaurants in my 10-mile market. That includes places to eat like bowling alleys and family entertainment centers because those places also sell pizza. The next thing on this is differentiating your business and offering unique value propositions. If you're getting your list of competition in the area, then you've already begun doing your analysis. And obviously, differentiating your business, offering unique value propositions is totally vital in a business. And I've actually done a video before where I said the biggest mistake that a lot of business owners make is that they copy their competition. And the solution to that is to copy your competition outside of your market area. If you have a pizza restaurant, it seems like there are only so many ways that pizza can actually be made. If you're doing an analysis of your competition in the area, then you might want to add arcade machines to your business because if you're trying to attract families and if you're trying to steal business from the family entertainment centers, those kind of things are going to be interesting to the families that you're trying to attract. You might also want to do some unique recipes that the other pizza places aren't doing in town. Maybe you make your dough a certain way, or maybe you make your sauce a certain way. A lot of businesses in your area are going to copy you if they find you successful, which is another reason why year 3 can be so hard for so many businesses. So what you want to do is you want to add more elements. And one of the best way to add more elements to your business is to look at what pizza parlors are doing all the way on the other side of the country, or maybe in the next state or the next town. Whenever you go on a road trip, whenever you travel, whenever you go anywhere, go hit up your restaurant model in that town and see what they have that's different and unique that you can bring back to your town. And that is going to differentiate you from your competition. Finally, the third bullet point on here is to develop a competitive analysis to identify opportunities and threats. This is actually super easy to do with Google. Okay, guys, as you can tell from the windows behind me, it is technically the next day. I had the video all rendered, all posted, everything, and scheduled for today. And in the middle of the night, I realized, oh crap, I forgot to put in the desktop part. So, pulled the video, throwing this in real quick. I'm still considering it a post because everything was done except for that part. And this is to show you how to analyze your competition. What I'm starting to do is I am putting in that my business location is O'Hare Airport. Because if you didn't know from previous videos, yes, I'm a market financial feasibility researcher by day, but my other job is flight attendant just because I like to travel. So I'm just putting in Terminal 3 of O'Hare Airport, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for all the restaurants in, say, downtown Chicago. Restaurants in downtown Chicago. Now, this is how I would do an analysis of who my competition is in the area. Chicago is a huge area, so if I were to do a 10-mile analysis, it's going to be a lot bigger than yours might be, depending on if you're in a big city or not. If you're in a big city, then instead of doing a 10-mile analysis, you're definitely want to shrink that down to about 5 miles because bigger cities, people tend to walk more, ride bikes, stuff like that. They don't like to drive as much. So I've got all of these results here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab them all. And I'm using my mouse. I just clicked on it. I'm highlighting everything. Now it keeps expanding. At some point, you're going to get too many. So I'm just going to stop here. Smith and Walensky. I'm going to hit Control-C for copy. Then I'm going to bring over ChatGPT. And I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to say, using the following data, create a table. And it's going to say, okay, give me the data. So while it's thinking about that, I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control-V. I go ahead and paste it. Now, the reason that I'm not going to go on and do hundreds of them is because ChatGPT does have its limits on what kind of information it'll give me back. Now, if I were to ask ChatGPT for this information, I don't know where the information is coming from, and it may not be giving me the information that I want. I like to use Google Maps to find my competition simply because of the fact that they have review systems, they have pricing, they have hours of operation, all kinds of stuff. The other reason I don't ask ChatGPT to give me this information is simply because it has its limits. If you ask it for 100 restaurants near you, then a lot of times what it's going to do is it's going to spit out 20, which is super frustrating. So it definitely has its limitations, which is why I go over to Google Maps to grab this information. Now, as you can see, it is putting it all into a nice little table for me. Name, rating and reviews, price range, cuisine, address, description, hours, service of operation, which is pretty much the information that I want to know. Now, here's the thing. I want this table right here separated. I could ask ChatGPT to separate it. It might not do a good job, but let's try. Separate the rating, reviews into two columns, and let's see if it figured it out. Okay, so it's separated for me, rating, review, price, cuisine. Now, if I wanted more information, I would go back to Google Maps, just like this. Let's go ahead and select the next set of information that I want. I'm just holding down the mouse button and I'm rolling. Once you get to the bottom, Google Maps is going to try to give you more and more. So you want to stop somewhere. And I hit Control C, and I get to say, add this information to the table. Hit enter. It's going to ask me in a second what information it wants me to add. There we go. Add this information to the table. Now it's thinking, what information do I need? Well, it's thinking I'm going to go ahead and hit Control V to paste that in there. So I've just pasted that in. Now, sometimes if it doesn't add it, then what you want to do is you want to go up and you want to copy that first table, and then we're going to drop it into Excel. While it's doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and go to the next step, which is basically to come up here. I'm going to hit the copy button. I'm going to pop over to Excel, and I usually start around line 5. I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control V to paste that table. Now, it's got some other information here that I don't really care about. You could use as a source. That's up to you. Put it at the bottom for notes. Come to the bottom. It's got nothing down here. Awesome. I select this whole table. I'm going to pull out like this, so then that way it extends everything, and then I'm going to double click the line so it goes back down to what's condensed. For number of reviews, I might change number to this. That way I can squeeze that down. And basically from here, I can format the table. I'm going to select this and I'm going to hit this line. That way the table is shorter. So apparently I only highlighted about 10. I'm going to do wrap text. And so now I'm getting my table nice and clean. Now that I have it in Excel, I can do all kinds of things. I can highlight all of this data. If I hit tab, I can go into data and I can hit the down arrow and say basically sort it by star ratings. And of course, it's including the top one in that. And let me hit that the other way. There we go. So the Dearborn has the highest ratings. But maybe that's not the most popular restaurant. It just means it has the highest ratings. So if I highlight it again, and I make my little blinker go to number of reviews, I hit this Z to A. Now I know Cortino Ristorante has the most reviews, even though it doesn't have the highest star rating. I have this list now, and basically what I'm going to do to analyze this is I'm going to create multiple tables out of all the data that I've had ChatGPT organize for me, and I'm going to figure out which ones have the most reviews, which ones have the best stars, and then I'm going to separate this out by cuisine. So again, I highlight it, tab over to cuisine, do an A to Z, and now I can see, okay, I've got American, I've got Italian, I've got New American, I've got restaurants and steak. So if I'm a pizza place, these two are my biggest competition, the Italian restaurants right here, which one of those is the most popular restaurant in downtown Chicago. The other thing I would do is I would create a tab that says, say, driving distance from location. So the other thing you do, driving distance from location, and we're going to do this one as minute, and we're going to do this one as miles. So I would fill this out also. What I would do is I would go to Google and I would ask it for driving directions. Generally, when you do that, it's going to give you 3 driving directions, both with minutes and with miles, and you can just fill in each column as you go. And just to show you real quick, let's go back. Oh, let's say I want this one, Smith and Walensky. I'm going to say driving directions. I'm going to put in ORD, Terminal 3. And now you can see it's only giving one path that's the best. It's saying it's 39 minutes, it's 17.5 miles. But keep this in mind. You want to do this after 7 p.m. if you're going to do the driving distance and the driving miles, or you want to do this on the weekend, because generally you have your traffic hour, and your traffic hour is going to affect this number. The fact that this number is orange tells that that's not the fastest time because it is changed by here is construction and by traffic. So go in after 7 p.m., put this information in. You can snag it right here, and you would just go back to your table, and you would put it in 39 minutes, 17.5 miles. Once you have that, then you can sort them by which is closest miles-wise, which is closest distance-wise, which one have the best ratings, which ones have the most ratings. You can sort it by cuisine. You can do a summary table, and these are all tables you would want to throw into your business plan. Mistake number 4, not looking at your allies. Now, YouTube didn't actually give me a mistake number 4. They conveniently only gave me 4 mistakes, even though they call it 5 business plan mistakes. So obviously they expected me to add a 4th one, and that 4th one that I'm adding is not analyzing who your allies are. A lot of businesses don't take into consideration that whoever is closest to them could be an ally or they could be competition. For example, if you are in a shopping center, all of those businesses in the shopping center are your competition at the same time that they're your allies because they're bringing traffic to the shopping center in the same way that you are. And because they're bringing customers to that particular shopping center, it gives you a chance to snag those customers out of the parking lot and bring them into your business. And of course, you can do that with things like signs on your window. It's actually very important to foster relationships with businesses that are close to your own business because of the fact that you are all working together to make that shopping center successful. You may think this is crazy, but malls do this all the time. If you go into a mall actually helps the stores cross promote to each other. In the same way, you can look at who are the businesses close to you that you can cross promote. And the businesses in your shopping center are very useful. The other thing to consider is if those allies in your shopping center were to suddenly close down and disappear, every time your shopping center loses a business, your shopping center becomes less and less attractive to your customers because now they have fewer reasons to go to that shopping center, whether it's just a small shopping center or whether it's a mall. So it's an excellent idea to approach those businesses and come up with a plan as a unified whole as how to keep your shopping center alive and thriving. Let's say you're a coffee shop now instead of a pizza place, and you happen to be in a shopping center that has a donut place. Now, technically, a donut place would be direct competition to your business because you are both morning breakfast places. If you were Starbucks, you've got coffee, you've got all the drinks, but you've also got pastries. However, you don't generally see a variety of donuts at a Starbucks. Now, if there was a donut store in your shopping center next to you, they probably also do sell coffee, but they're not going to sell the variety of coffees that you make. So you could create some kind of cross promotion system with that donut shop that says, hey, I'll promote your donuts if you promote my coffee. That way, their customers are now your customers are now their customers, and it's a win-win situation. Because yes, while you might want to sell everything out of your store to them, the likelihood that the customer is going to come in and buy everything that you have is not really that big. They're coming in for your specialty. They're coming in for the item that they love the most. And they're going to come more often if they can get another item that they love the most from your competition next door, which again can be your ally. So, mistake number 4 that I believe a lot of businesses make is that they don't analyze who their allies might be and they don't consider how to make a cross promotion between the two businesses. There was one business that I used to love that was a cafe across from a movie theater, and they actually put a sign up that said, come in with your movie ticket and we will give you 10% off your order. Now, you may be thinking, that sucks. 10% of my profits. I don't want to lose 10% of my profits. But the truth is, you wouldn't have made that sale anyway if they didn't know they could get a 10% discount from you. Now, this coffee shop that did that, they were basically done with their rush hour by about 10 o'clock in the morning, and they tried to stay open all day long. In the evening, they would do concerts and poetry readings and stuff like that to try to get people in, especially people coming from the movie theaters, because that was basically an ally. It wasn't something that they had gone to the movie theater to talk about because the movie theater didn't actually cross promote them, but because their business was in the same shopping center, they took advantage of that by saying, bring in your movie ticket and we'll give you 10% off. And now they got a sale that they wouldn't have gotten during a time that they wouldn't have gotten it because honestly, movie theaters often don't open their doors till 10 or 11 in the morning. It ended up being a fairly good cross promotion that one side initiated and the other side really didn't care if they did it or not. It didn't affect their business at all. But it did add to their customer experience because now customers that are going to the movies and having a date and having a good time, they now have a business to go to after the movies where they can continue their date with some coffee and some pastries. So remember to look at who your allies are nearby, whether they're your competition, whether they know about you or not. How can you bring their customers in to make their experience better and flush it out even more? So it can work for services, it can work for restaurants, it can work for retail business. You just have to figure out who your allies are. Mistake number 5, lack of a clear action plan. What that basically means is people aren't fleshing out their business plans enough. Because they're not fleshing out their business plans enough, they're not seeing the loopholes. They're not seeing the things they're missing. And when they hit hard times, they close the doors because they don't really know what else to do. If you happen to create the 3 projections that I mentioned, where you actually do projections for worst case scenario, then you're going to be able to plan accordingly should you have a hard year. And in the same way, if you do projections for your ideal year and you get an influx of cash, that'll help you decide, okay, we got all this extra money. What should we do next to scale this business up? So put all of those things into your business plan and start to create a tight model. Start to shave off the things that don't fit, the things that aren't selling, the employees that aren't good. Start creating plans to lock in your customer loyalty and get them to return again and again. And try to increase your profit margin year after year. That way, when you hit year 5, if your sales numbers have increased to where you were at your peak in year 2, then you're on a good growth curve. And at that point, you might want to start looking at, do I want to take this business and franchise it? Do I want to put it in another town? Do I want to put it in another location? For those first 5 years, try to figure out how to survive, how to get past year 3, and how to get back to where you'll be at your peak in the first 2 years. The takeaway. So basically, just to recap, the 5 mistakes were not knowing who your customers were and not defining them well enough. Basically, creating projections that were unrealistic and not planning for those hard years that you're going to have. Neglecting to take into account who your competition is, neglecting to take into account who your allies are, and basically seeing how both can work in your favor and how you can basically outshine your competition, but also use your allies to your advantage. And then finally, not having a clear plan of what you're going to do in lean times and what you're going to do in feast times. You want to have all of those things in place because having a business plan that's tight and concise can not only help you figure all of that stuff out before the hard stuff hits, but it can be something that you can give to an investor that's going to help you take your business to the next level and scale up and up and up if you're looking for an influx of cash and you want to scale up faster. Those are the 5 business plan mistakes that I believe you should address immediately if you haven't already addressed all of them. Question of the day. So my question for you is, did you have a business plan before you started your business, or did you just pretty much wing it? If you did have a business plan, was it as tight and concise as you hoped it would be? Or again, did you just fill out a questionnaire? Also, did this video inspire you at all to go ahead and redesign your business plan? Let me know that in the comments below. I would so appreciate it. I'd like to know who in my community finds this kind of information interesting. If you want more business tips about how to take your business to the next level and scale it up, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting the like button. And then share it with other small business owners that you know, because it's my goal, as always, to help small businesses thrive instead of just survive. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing another YouTube video of whatever YouTube tells me that they think I should do, just because I want to see if that actually helps my analytics at all. You know what I mean? So come back tomorrow to see what YouTube tells me to do. The hook. Is your business plan basically, how do I say this nicely? Stupid, pathetic, useless. Because that's what I want to talk to you about today.